All right, we're back. We're going to be looking at today making exact size shapes in AutoCAD 3D. So we're going to start here with the box, and let's say that our box was, I'll use the dimensions here on the paper, 5 inches by 1.5 inch by 2.5 inch tall. So I'm going to simply click on my box, and I'm going to put in 5 inches long. I'm going to hit the tab key to toggle from one input to the next, and it is 1.5 inches thick. So I'm going to put 1.5 and hit enter. And now I'm going to run the cube itself up, and it is 2.5 tall. So now I've made a box exactly 5 inches long, 1.5 inches thick, and 2.5 inches high. If I were to pop in a dimension, for example, I could check that, and that would actually read out 5 inches long and 1.5 inches and so forth. So I'm going to erase those out. And for this one, we're locating basic shapes, and we're designing new shape features. So this first shape here is kind of like a a box with a wedge cut out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now, after I've created my box, I'm going to come down here to wedge, and I'm going to click on wedge. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to select one corner point. Now the first corner point where you pick for your wedge is going to be the actual high part of the wedge, okay? Since I want my wedge to be cut out of this section right over here, I'm going to start my wedge over here, and let's say that my wedge is, let's say, 4 inches long. I'm going to toggle over with the tab key, and it's still 1.5 inches wide, and so I'm going to hit enter. And now let's say that this the high portion here is going to be going down into the block, let's say 2 inches out of the 2.5 inch tall block. So now we have here a box or rectangular shape here, and we have the wedge right here. And so now I'm just going to simply use my solid editing command of subtraction right up here, solid subtract. I'm going to select that. I want to subtract out of my box, hitting enter to saying yes, that's the one I want to subtract from, and the shape I want to subtract out is the actual wedge, and I hit enter, and now it is actually drawn exactly to scale using multiple geometric shapes to make my final product. Let's say I want to change out of 2D wireframe and I want it to be conceptual. Now you can see it's changed around, or maybe I like X-ray mode, where you can kind of see through the component. Okay? All right. So any questions on that, how we drew that to exact size? And you can do this with various shapes. So, for example, if I had a box, and let's say, again, the same parameters, 5, 1.5, and 2.5 tall, and let's say that I want to draw a box out of the middle location, and I want to subtract out from this, I can simply draw out the new size box. Let's say that the new size box is going to be 3. Let's say that I want to make it, it doesn't matter how long I make it because I'm going to subtract this square hole out. And let's say that the height of the hole is going to be 1.5. And I can take this box and I can move this box with the move command, snapping from the face of this to the face of that. Notice that the smaller box is going to be cutting out that square shape from the larger box. So I'm just going to use my subtract command, subtracting from this one, hitting enter, and then selecting the shape I want to subtract out. And now I've made a cutout from the cube. Okay? All right, any questions on that? You can also use these, use location points. So let me undo this. Let me move this out of the way. Let's say it doesn't line up exactly to where I want this box in relation to this box right here. I can draw in lines and say doing a line from endpoint to endpoint of this box, and now I have that line drawn there, and I can use that line as a location point. So I could move this box, let's say from the corner point here, and I could snap, well, it's going to snap my face there. Let me turn off F4, which is the 3D snap. I could snap to a point on a regular line. So I've now moved that box from that corner to hitting that line point. If you do that, just please know that you need to go back and erase your actual line itself. You can do that by just windowing a solid window and hitting delete to erase that out. But you can use line points to locate your boxes or your different shapes in AutoCAD. You can use lines to locate those points. Okay. Any questions on that stuff? Other shapes, you might have to join shapes. So let's say that this one here, instead of doing a large rectangular box and then subtracting out the wedge, you could do it the other way. You could do, let's say, 5 by 1.5 inch deep by 1/2 inch tall. You could do that shape, plus you could do a shape from this corner going out 1 by 1.5 by 2 inches tall. And then you could do another wedge shape here, snapping from this corner to, let me do that again. Snapping from this corner to this corner and snapping up this tall. And you can now join those together. Instead of using the subtract, you would use the union command. And you could union all three of these boxes or those items together to make the same 3D shape. Okay? All right, any questions on that?